I
hope you're
doing
well. Ça part en couille.
Focus.
Focus. Yay.
Bonjour. I know it's been a while, but I'm back. I'm gonna teach you how to create a gradient with PROCREATE and how to create like a liquid marbling effect. So let's go. We are gonna create a new file. So you just go to the plus little sign right there, and we're gonna go for an A4. So first, here with this little color dot, you have your colors and you have your color palette. You can have different setup to find the best color for you. The best way to start designing is, in my opinion, to go to palette right there and to create a new one. So this is default, and now you can go to your main color menu and just have a blank space. We are gonna choose our color for the project. I have to admit I really like this orangey pinkish color. So once you have your color right there, you can just tap to save it, which is pretty convenient. I'm gonna go for grayish blue and then maybe a dark red and a light pink. Oula, no, not this pink. So yeah, so if you don't like a color, for example this one, which I actually pretty like, but you just stay on it and press delete and then you're good. So we're gonna go for, let's say, this pink. Now I have my colors. Here you can find the brushes. You will find your favorite brushes. There is tons, and I am not going to review all of them today. But we're going to use the airbrushing tools, as they're really good for blending colors together. My favorite is the soft brush, as it's very feathered on the sides. Here you can decide of the size of your brush and the opacity of your brush. So we're going to go full opacity and quite a large brush. Let's try. Okay, that's a pretty good start. If you're not happy with the stroke, you can just double tap with 2 fingers and it will erase. And if you did it by mistake, you can press with 3 fingers and it will go back. So that's a really convenient shortcut. Now, nothing too complicated, just draw something. I'm going very simple here, as I just want to create a nice gradient. So something like this. And maybe we want to add an intense deep blue. Yes, we do. Okay, so that's a very cool color palette we have here. So now I'm gonna go to this little magic wand right there and go with motion blur, Gaussian blur, sorry. It's pretty much the same as in Photoshop. You really just have to slide to see the magic happens. I know, it's very enjoyable. So I'm gonna go about this far. So we have something really cool coming up here. Now I'm gonna resize this so we don't have those white spots right there. To do that, you just click on this little arrow right there and then you can just resize it. So you can resize it uniformly, you can distort it, wrap it, or just having a free form that you create. I'm gonna go with the uniform. Just select a side and you can drag it up, drag it down, and here you are. You have your whole canvas filled with some really nice colors. If the colors are not as intense or as bright as you would like them to be, you can always go back to that magic wand. I'm gonna go with hue, saturation, and brightness. And there you can obviously change your colors if that's what you want, if you really want something more random, but I'm not into this. I really like the color I picked. And I'm just gonna push slightly the saturation up, like so. Now that we have this, what are we gonna do? I mean, it's pretty nice if you want just a simple gradient. That's already doing quite a good trick. But my aim with you today is to show you the Liquify tool of PROCREATE. So you go back to your magic wand and you go to Liquify. And here you have tons of options. The more obvious being push. So you just push your drawing in the direction you want to. You have twirl, right and left. You have pinch, which is quite interesting. You have expand, which is the opposite, literally. You have crystals, so you create like this marbling effect. And then you have edge, so like it pulling together stuff. And then when you do all those things, if you just want to recreate just a bit, you have reconstruct. And you can press it and slightly go back to what it was. And you have the strength as well. Here you have the size of your brush, nothing very fancy. The pressure, so how is the pressure going to affect the liquefying effect. And you have the distortion, which like create this uneven movement. And you have as well the momentum. So momentum, if you don't know, it means that if I push it to the maximum, it means that when I pull up my pencil, it's still gonna have a little time where it's gonna move. Can you see? Still moving. Maybe it will be more obvious with the pinch. Okay, so it's still moving. So it's like if it was really fluid, like water or something like this. It can be really interesting to work with this. Let's create something, shall we? I do like to use the push because I feel like you have more control over what you're doing and you can really focus in some specific area. Changing the size as well is a good trick. Going with the pinch for some more defined textures. I like to crystallize at some point and then push again, so it's way more subtle. The thing is, you can really go crazy with this and it's very satisfying and I find it really relaxing. You could do it without any purpose, but you can definitely overdo it as well. Like, the more you do it, it's like blending colors together if it was paint. And for example, if you just overdo it, it's just gonna look like super intense. Also could be your goal. I'm quite liking what's happening here. What do you think? I think I'm gonna settle with this and maybe create a second one just to show you a different finish you can get. I think I'm just gonna keep this soft brush because it's just really good for this purpose. And just really have fun. You don't have to worry too much about techniques. Just do what comes to your mind and what makes you happy, and it should look good at some point. And if it doesn't, you can just double tap with your finger and start over. I find the iPad really liberating to create, but at the same time it can be really hard to just do something, as you can always erase if you're like me and you're just always unsatisfied with what you do. You might take the habit to erase quite often, which is a shame, to be honest, because if you do erase often, then you can't work with your mistakes, and mistakes are what makes your drawing cool at some point and what makes you progress as well, because when you learn to work with your mistakes, then you're really working. Let me makes no sense. But yeah, if you work with your mistakes, you're really working with your imagination, because you have to overcome the problem you're facing, and that's a very good exercise. So that doesn't look really good at the moment, but we are gonna try make it look better. So let's blur it. Already much better. Saturation a bit. Maybe we're gonna slightly change colors. You can also color balance, so if you feel like, I don't know, this blue is too intense, you can calm all the blues, and if you want more green, you can just push up all the greens, or if you want some magenta or the reds. If you want to push the magenta but you have none, it's not gonna do much for you. Here I was working with the highlights. Can work with the mid-tones as well. We're gonna stick with this. So, going back to Liquify, we're going to work with the twirl. The twirl can be really cool and really overwhelming as well. And a very cool thing to do is to expand a part that you really like, so it becomes the main focus of your artwork. A very cool effect with the crystals is to actually lower a bit your brush size, so you have more control over where you're crystallizing, and it could really give some super cool results. It can also look like very close to the hippie tie-dye effect, or the suminagashi. I hope I'm saying this right. It's name of the marbling effect in Japanese. A very cool thing to do is to focus in some defined area. I'm really liking this vibe. Something important to know with PROCREATE is when you resize, you actually lose everything else. Push the saturation a bit. And I like to add as a final note some noise. Always by sliding, just like that. I'm just gonna maybe add some noise to this one for a nice finish. And here we go. Now that we have a very cool marbling effect with this and with this, if you wanted to overlap those two, you can play with the opacity, and you can also play with the blending mode, which can give you some sickening results. Like, this is pretty cool actually. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a comment or just hit the like or subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys!